What's up, everyone? Today we're talking about Runtz, the cannabis strain that took the culture by storm, and in doing so, rewrote the entire playbook for how cannabis brands are built. So far on this channel, we've covered stories from a bygone era, strains born in parking lots, smuggled across borders, and traded in the underground. But today we're shifting gears. It's time to talk about a modern cannabis story. In 2017, three guys took a road trip from Los Angeles to Sonoma County with 300 jars of weed and a few thousand t-shirts. And they ended up walking away having launched what would become the most counterfeited cannabis brand in history. If you're new to this channel, this is where I cover the history of cannabis, including the strains, the people, and the stories that shaped this entire culture. Hit subscribe and let's get into it. Let's start with the moment that Runtz announced itself to the world. December 2017, the Emerald Cup at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds. This is where the industry shows up to compete, network, and pay attention to what's coming next. And naturally, the famous cookies brand, run by Berner, they had a booth that year. They were debuting London Pound Cake, and it was supposed to be their big moment. But three guys from Los Angeles had different plans. Nick Corwin, Ray Bama, and Young LB pulled up with 300 jars of cannabis and 2,500 t-shirts. They set up shop directly in front of the cookies booth, and the line that formed around them got so long that Cookies actually asked them to leave. But still, they sold out in minutes, and Berner took notice. So who were these three guys? They weren't just random friends. They were really the perfect team to launch a cannabis brand at that time. Nick Corwin was the soul of the plant. He was a dedicated cultivator who had spent years perfecting his craft. For Nick, the plant was the product. And then there was Ray Bama. He was the architect of the brand. Before Runtz, he invented the Glow Tray. That was an LED lit rolling tray that turned a basic piece of gear into a must-have high-end accessory for stoners. Ray understood that in the modern market, the lifestyle was just as important as the flower. He knew how to manufacture desire through merchandise and branding. Lastly, there was Young LB. He was the bridge to the culture. He was born in Long Beach and raised in the Bay Area. He was a rapper and an affiliate of the Cookie Boys. That's the street team that helped Berner's Cookies brand become a global powerhouse. LB lived at the intersection of music and cannabis. So to recap, there was the grower who could perfect the genetics, the product designer who built the aesthetic, and the cultural ambassador who made it all cool. Every successful cannabis brand that has launched since 2017 is essentially copying the structure. Now let's talk about what actually matters, the cannabis itself. Runtz is a cross of Zkittlez and Gelato 33. Zkittlez is a berry candy-flavored hybrid developed by 3rd Gen Fam and Terp Hogs. It won the 2016 Emerald Cup Indica category, so it was already a recognized winner when Nick started working with it. Gelato 33 is nicknamed Larry Bird, after the basketball player's jersey number. Nick picked it because its terpene profile meshed well with Skittles. The result was a favorable strain with a strong terpene profile itself. Flavors of tree fruit, apricot, and sweet creamy candy. It had THC ranging from 19 to 29%. The effects are talkative, giggly, relaxed. It offers a social high, perfectly calibrated for the audience that was about to receive it. Once Runtz hit the scene, it didn't just stay a singular product. It became a launching pad for new strains. Because it was the perfect 50-50 hybrid, breeders everywhere started using it as their stud. They took that candy terp profile and mixed it with everything. There was White Runtz, which has that heavy snow-like trichome coverage, Pink Runtz, which leaned into that sugary aesthetic, and Super Runtz, a high-potency cross. There are even savory crosses like Peanut Butter Runtz. In breeding terms, this is what you call a foundational strain. Now let's talk about how Runtz actually got sold. They essentially used the Supreme model and applied it to cannabis. If you don't know about Supreme, it's a streetwear brand that built its empire by selling small quantities of branded clothing on specific drop dates. For Runtz, the hype got so big that they had lines around the block, instant sellouts, and resale prices that doubled or tripled the original. Ray Bama was explicit about this strategy. He said they constantly hunted and serviced that top 1% of the market. They kept their releases very small. The scarcity was all part of their strategy. It wasn't accidental. LB put it even more directly. He said they aspired to be the Louis Vuitton of cannabis. He wanted people wearing Louis Vuitton and Gucci to also be smoking Runtz. Cannabis had never been sold this way before. It wasn't so much good weed as it was a status symbol. After the Emerald Cup ambush, Berner recognized exactly what these three guys had created, and Cookies became Runtz's exclusive distributor, which gave the brand access to a supply chain that already reached across California. But that partnership didn't last. As Runtz exploded, the team eventually wanted full ownership of what they had built. There was a lawsuit involved, but I'm not going to get into that here. What matters is that they separated from cookies and went independent. By the time the dust settled, Runtz had emerged as one of the most powerful cannabis brands of its generation, and it was standing entirely on its own. After the cookies deal, the Runtz team did something no one else was doing. They went on tour. OB called it guerrilla marketing. They went city by city, physically taking the brand to markets across the country. They created local demand before national supply chains even existed. But the physical tour was only half of the equation. The real secret was Instagram. In 2018 and 2019, if you were a cannabis enthusiast, your feed was a window into the culture. The Runtz team didn't just post pictures of weed. They curated an entire aesthetic. When they arrived in a new city like Atlanta, New York, or Miami, they dropped content that felt exclusive and high status. They understood the tag and share economy better than any of their competitors. By having influencers, rappers, and local legends tag their products and repost their brand's content, they created a feedback loop of desire. Traditional advertising can often feel manufactured, but the Runtz team offered an authentic glimpse into the world their audience wanted to be part of. Runtz launched at the exact moment an entire generation of SoundCloud rappers were breaking into the mainstream. For example, there was Juice WRLD. When Juice WRLD died on December 8, 2019 at Chicago's Midway International Airport, law enforcement found 70 pounds of marijuana on his private jet. We'll never know for sure, but speculation has circulated that some of it was Runtz. There was also Gunna and Lil Baby. They too mentioned Runtz. But really the takeaway here is that like OG Kush and Sour Diesel in the late 90s and early 2000s, hip-hop music had a major impact on Runtz's mainstream adoption. Within 18 months of that Emerald Cup launch, Runtz's branded packaging was being counterfeited everywhere. Manufacturers in China started producing identical Runtz bags, and they sold them openly online for 5 to 15 cents per unit. Ray Bama estimated that 1 in 10 eighths sold on either the legal or black market ended up being a bootleg. This was flattering. After all, no one counterfeits an obscure product. But it was also a problem the team needed to confront, because the Runtz name was starting to be associated with inferior weed. So how did they react to all this counterfeiting? Well, their public response was surprisingly relaxed. The Obama Runtz moment is a perfect example of this. There was an Atlanta street dealer, and he made a viral video describing a strain called Obama Runtz. This strain didn't exist yet, but the video still spread through hip-hop social media overnight. But the Runtz team didn't overreact. Instead, they launched their own official Obama Runtz strain. They even dropped a song in a music video that referenced the original viral video. They ended up taking this bootleg and flipped it into marketing for their brand. So let's zoom out and wrap this up. Runtz didn't invent modern cannabis branding. That credit goes to Burner and Cookies. But the thing that's interesting about Runtz is that the bag, and really their entire brand, mattered as much as the bud. When you look at the history of Runtz, the scarcity, the limited drops, and the rapper cosign, they're all inseparable from the product inside the jar. And that's the story of Runtz. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more cannabis history content. I drop new videos every week or so on the strains, the people, and the stories that shape this whole culture. And if you want to go deeper, check out my book, Cannabis Lore. I cover Runtz and a bunch of other stories in a lot more detail. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching.